Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Nathan Wilson stared at the screen of his cell phone, his knuckles white with exertion. Credit card spending alerts stung his eyes. $50,000 in unauthorized charges. He quickly skimmed through the transaction logs. Purchases at luxury stores in Paris, first-class airfare, five-star hotel reservations. All of these expenditures had occurred within the past week. Sir, your client for the 3 o'clock meeting is already waiting. Assistant Margaret knocked gently on the door. Cancel it. Nathan's voice was surprisingly calm. Cancel all meetings for the rest of the day. He pressed his thumb to unlock his phone and open the banking app. More transactions come to mind. Small purchases scattered in upscale restaurants and private clubs. The pattern couldn't be more obvious. Someone is living a life of luxury on his dime. And this man knows his passwords, his daily habits, his whole life. That person, his wife Catherine. Catherine hadn't answered his calls or responded to text for a week. "I need some time to clear my head," was the last message she sent last Tuesday. Now he finally understood the true meaning of the words. Nathan opens the home security system app. When he first noticed Catherine's unusual behavior a few months ago, he installed surveillance cameras in his home. Those late-night secret calls, the sudden interest in luxury goods, everything was recorded. Surveillance footage from last week shows Catherine carefully packing her bags and carefully selecting clothing and jewelry. Every move she made revealed signs of long planning. A tall, well-dressed man was helping her. Oliver Reed, the so-called entrepreneur who popped up at their charity dinner 3 months ago. Nathan opens his laptop and pulls up the detailed financial records he's been collecting. Credit card statements, bank transfer records, call logs. Everything is carefully recorded and backed up on an encrypted hard drive. He had foreseen this day, prepared for it, but the truth still cut him to the core. The phone vibrated with a new email from Catherine. "Honey, I hope you don't mind that I got myself some little gifts. Paris is so beautiful this time of year. Oliver sends his regards." Attached was a photo of her lounging by the rooftop pool, champagne in hand and wearing what looked to be newly purchased designer sunglasses. There was a hint of mockery in her smile. Nathan's laughter started low and gradually became so loud that Margaret all but probed her head worriedly. He waved her away while he began answering urgent emails. Outwardly, he maintains a professional and restrained image, but inside, a layer of ice has formed. He gives Catherine everything: a luxurious residence, unlimited credit card limits, high society connections. He trusts her with his life, his reputation, and his future. That trust became his weakness, a mistake he would never repeat. Nathan flipped through his address book to find a number he hoped he'd never have to use. Private investigator Rachel Andrews picks up the phone on the second ring. "Nathan Wilson," she said, "it's been a long time." "I need your services," he replied, "a full investigation with no restrictions. The target is my wife and her new friend Oliver Reed. It's an expensive hobby." Rachel commented, "Cost is not an issue. I want to know everything: where they're going, who they're meeting, what they're planning, and especially their finances." "Sounds personal." "Indeed." Nathan could hear the smirk in Rachel's tone. "It's just my favorite type. Send me the information you have, and I'll get started on it today." Nathan ends the call and sends the collected data to Rachel's secure server. Next, he contacted the bank's anti-fraud department, his legal team, and finally the security team, in that order. Each call is short and precise, paving the way for the next move. As night fell, he drove back to the empty house. The scent of Catherine's perfume remained in the bedroom, intertwined with the scent of the roses he'd bought last week. He walked through each room, taking note of what she took with her: photographs, documents, specific pieces of jewelry. These choices are not random, but carefully selected items of monetary and strategic value. In the study, Nathan poured himself a 2-finger width of whiskey and settled into his seat. One monitor showed security footage of the house, and the other scrolled through financial data. He built it all up through calculation and control, climbing his way from middle-class origins to the upper echelons of the financial world. Now, these skills will serve a different purpose. The cell phone beeps with Rachel's initial findings: business dealings regarding Oliver Reed, multiple failed corporate projects, mountains of debt, and a pattern of luring wealthy women. Catherine wasn't his first target, but she would be his last. Nathan saves these documents, adding them to his growing collection of evidence. Soon, very soon, they'll realize they've made a mistake. He's not the kind of naive husband who can be fooled and pillaged. He's a man who earned his position by anticipating threats and eliminating them. Let them enjoy their champagne and shopping sprees, and let them think they've won. His vengeance will be cold, precise, and thorough. Near midnight, he received another email from Catherine. "Miss me? Don't worry. I'm in better care now, real better." Nathan didn't reply. Instead, he started writing a different email to board member William Thompson, a powerful figure who owed him several favors. The pieces are being put in place. They thought they knew him, the successful but predictable husband, the meticulous financial analyst. They don't understand that it is these qualities that make him dangerous. Every detail will be accounted for, and every action will be planned with precision. He worked through the night, building his strategy. By dawn, his plan had taken shape. Catherine and Oliver have declared war, and now they're going to really realize what that means. Throughout the night, Nathan realizes that this isn't just a personal vendetta, but a strategic move that needs to be executed perfectly. Every step must be precise, every counterattack lethal. He opened the safe and took out an old chessboard, the only thing his father had left him, a gift that had taught him to think strategically. Now the board would witness a new game, a war he would never lose. The smell of coffee and paper permeates the offices of the Securities and Exchange Commission. The afternoon sunlight casts streaks of shadow through the blinds on the papers as Nathan Wilson shows off one piece of evidence after another that he's collected. Oliver Reed's fraudulent activities are exposed in these documents. Forged investment reports, misappropriated funds, a pyramid scheme cloaked as a legitimate business. Each page tells the story of an elaborate scam. Senior investigator Sarah Evans' desk is littered with papers, her fingers tapping on key passages as she wears gold-rimmed glasses. "This material is very compelling, Mr. Wilson. How long have you been collecting this information?" "Since I first noticed the anomaly." Nathan's voice was smooth and calm. Oliver Reed has a regular pattern of using charm and false promises to approach wealthy individuals and corporations to gain access to their resources. Every transaction, every deception, is recorded by me. Sarah marked the paper, the highlighter making bright yellow marks on the surface. "What about your wife's level of involvement?" Based on these records, she appears to have played a significant role. "At first she was manipulated," Nathan said as he pulled out a new stack of papers, "but then became an active participant. These bank records show that she was involved in the transfer of funds, and these emails prove that she assisted in the creation of false documents in an attempt to cover up their activities. Every step has been carefully planned." The investigation was conducted quickly and with greater efficiency than expected. Over the next 3 days, a series of thunderous operations began to be executed. Oliver's assets were frozen and 17 accounts in his name were flagged for suspicious activity. The news was like a bomb that sent ripples through the financial community. Socialites who used to swoon over Oliver Reed suddenly started avoiding any Oliver Reed-related topics. Nathan is following developments from his office downtown. 3 monitors were running simultaneously, one showing real-time news, one tracking stock market fluctuations, and the third displaying Rachel's latest investigative report. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see the city skyline light up in the twilight. "We have new information from our source in Miami," Rachel's voice came through the phone with a hint of triumph. "Oliver is trying to tap into his emergency fund, but every account is falling like dominoes. Your preparations were so thorough that they were desperate." The collapse of the social scene came more dramatically than expected. An orchestrated chance encounter is taking place at Manhattan's most prestigious club, Rosewood. Barbara Mitchell, the social queen who ruled high society for nearly 2 decades, is hosting a charity luncheon. When Catherine tries to approach her exclusive circle, Barbara's voice resonates throughout the restaurant. "I don't consort with thieves." Silence spreads through the lavish dining room as dozens of socialites witness Catherine freeze in place under the glow of crystal chandeliers. The perfect makeup she crafted couldn't hide the shock and shame on her face. The scene was secretly recorded and will soon appear on social media. Oliver's counterattack came both fast and recklessly, showing his panic. Through his connections within the company, he tried to spread rumors that Nathan was suspected of embezzlement and even falsified some financial documents. However, these poor attempts are especially laughable in light of Nathan's forethought. "I have witnesses," he told William in a conference room on the top floor of the firm, with helicopters skimming the Manhattan sky outside the window, people from Oliver's inner circle willing to testify to expose the source of these forged documents. William put down the cigar in his hand and gave an interested look. "People like that are usually hard to handle." "Everyone has a price," Nathan said, standing at the window with a cold certainty in his voice. "And in this case, immunity from prosecution is enough. Some people are better at judging the situation than others." The witness's testimony was like a hammer blow that completely destroyed Oliver's allegations. The warrant was issued that afternoon. Oliver has to make a hasty escape from the city, abandoning everything in the process, including Catherine, whom he had promised to spend his life with. Early the next morning, Catherine showed up in the lobby of Nathan's company building. Her Chanel suit is no longer as neat as it used to be, her carefully styled hair is slightly disheveled, and the image of the elegant and confident socialite is beginning to crumble. The security system's high-definition cameras faithfully recorded every attempt she made to approach the elevator. "Please, Nathan," her voice came through the intercom with a distinct sob. "We need to talk. I can explain everything. Trust me, it's not what you think." Nathan sat in his office, calmly watching it all through his monitor. Once, every smile of this woman warmed his heart, but now, he only felt a coldness. "There's nothing to explain, Catherine. The evidence speaks for itself. Every choice you make, every decision you make, is on record." "It shouldn't have gotten this far." Her voice became urgent. "The situation is completely out of control. Give me a chance, just once, to make up for everything. We can start over." "Like you gave me a chance?" His voice remained calm, almost gentle, a gentleness more chilling than anger. "Go home, Catherine, while you still have a home to go to." "You don't understand." Her voice raised, drawing sideways glances from the rest of the lobby. "Oliver, he's not what you think he is. He coerced me, No one is forcing you to do anything." Nathan interrupted her calmly. "Every step, every lie, every betrayal is your choice. Now, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of those choices." Eventually, 2 security guards had to escort her away, her cries echoing through the marble-paved lobby. Nathan turned off the monitor and went back to work. His cell phone kept vibrating, displaying messages from concerned colleagues and business associates, but he didn't respond to any of them. Let them speculate. Let them see for themselves what it means to betray Nathan Wilson. As night falls, Rachel brings new information. She put down a stack of photos and lit a cigarette. Oliver was found at a beachfront hotel in Miami. He's still trying to squander the last of his resources and act like everything's normal, but our guys say he's totally freaked out. He even started getting drunk and babbling to the bartender. Perfect. Nathan scanned the financial reports. "What's the status of our witnesses?" "Steady as a rock." Gregory Thomas tried to discredit the witness with his old tricks, but our chain of evidence was too strong. The SEC investigation is in its final stages. The plan is being realized step by step. Oliver's carefully constructed empire is falling apart, his carefully cultivated image in social circles in tatters. Catherine, the once glamorous socialite, now finds herself isolated and shunned by her former friends. However, Nathan did not feel any satisfaction or joy from these victories. This is just the beginning, the first step in this longer-term game. The real victory is not in destroying what they have, but in making sure that they can never rise again. He works late into the night in his office, coordinating with his team and reviewing every detail. The lights of the city dimmed outside the window, but the fire of his vengeance was just burning. Every action is precisely calculated, and every response is well thought out. They wanted to destroy his life, and he was going to show them what true destruction was. In the quiet moments of the night, he remembered Catherine's words from their last Maldives vacation. "You take yourself too seriously, Nathan. Learn to enjoy life." Right now, he was really enjoying it, enjoying dismantling their carefully woven lies, enjoying watching them crumble under the pressure. They had awakened something cold and unfeeling within him, something that once awakened could never be stopped. Let them keep running. Let them hide. But sooner or later, they would realize that there was no corner of the world where they could hide from his trail. He would find them, destroy them, erase every trace of their existence. This isn't just revenge, it's a war to redefine the rules of the game. Nathan Wilson, on the other hand, never plays a game he can't win. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Gregory Thomas is straightening his Italian silk tie in the mirror. The reflection in the mirror showed a man accustomed to victory. Sharp features, predator-like eyes, and that charming smile that had convinced countless juries. "Mr. Thomas," his assistant knocked on the door. "Oliver Reed is on the line." Gregory looked at his watch. "Transfer it to my cell phone." There was anxiety in Oliver's voice. "Tell me what breakthroughs you've had." "Better than a breakthrough," Gregory replied as he flipped through the papers in his briefcase. "I found some inconsistencies in Ross's financial records. Some small differences hint at larger violations. When we show these to the judge, I'm not paying to hear your speculations." Oliver interrupted, his voice shaking with anger. "The SEC investigation has frozen all my accounts." Gregory's smile tightened. "Trust the process, Mr. Reed. By the time I finish my statement, Ross will be in the dock." He ended the call and strutted into the courtroom lobby, where reporters had gathered like vultures. "It's time to start the show. Mr. Thomas, can you comment on the allegations against your client?" Gregory pauses, displaying a solemn gesture of concern. "What we're seeing here is a disturbing pattern of harassment and manipulation. My client, Oliver Reed, is a respected businessman who has become the target of a jealous husband. This husband cannot accept his wife's independence. We have evidence that Mr. Ross fabricated these fraud allegations out of malice." Reporters frantically took notes while Gregory continued his well-prepared performance. "We will be filing a countersuit against Mr. Ross for his own financial improprieties. The real victim here is Catherine Ross, who, after years of enduring controlling behavior, has finally found the courage to leave." At the other end of the courtroom, Nathan Wilson watched the press conference through a monitor, his expression revealing no emotion. Rachel was sitting next to him, going over the latest intelligence reports. "He's good at it," Rachel said as she lit a cigarette, "and knows how to strike public sympathy." William leaned back in his chair, studying Gregory's performance. "The financial allegations are clever, just enough mixture of truth and lies to seem believable." Nathan tapped the desk. "What's the reaction from the board members?" "Some people are wavering," William said, "and Harrison and Chun are particularly worried. They're afraid the scandal will affect the stock price. Then it's time to show them something more worrisome." Nathan pulled up a file. Rachel found Brandon's former victim. "I'm going to make their story public before Gregory's next launch." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "It's risky. Gregory will claim it was witness tampering. Let him talk." There wasn't a hint of hesitation in Nathan's voice. "These women have been waiting for someone to expose Brandon for what he is. We just give them a platform." The next day, as Gregory prepared to file his counterclaim, 3 separate interviews appeared simultaneously on the morning news. The 3 wealthy women described the same pattern: Brandon's charisma, his business proposals, how he gradually emptied their accounts. Their stories fit perfectly with the evidence Rachel has gathered. Gregory's phone was flooded with calls from reporters, and Brandon's voicemail was filled with increasingly panicked messages. Their carefully constructed narrative begins to crack. But Gregory has one last card to play. A restraining order petition lay quietly on his desk, accompanied by a pile of carefully crafted emails claiming harassment and threats. "Your Honor," Gregory argued to Judge Martinez that afternoon, "my client fears for his safety. Mr. Ross has exhibited increasingly erratic behavior, including these disturbing messages." The judge reviewed the emails while Nathan's attorney objected. "Your Honor, these are unverified. We are requesting time for certification." Considering the seriousness of the allegations, Judge Martinez interrupted. "I am granting a temporary restraining order, pending a complete review. Mr. Ross must maintain a distance of at least 100 yards from Mrs. Ross and cease all direct contact." When the restraining order was issued, Nathan was unresponsive. He saw this step coming, and it was exactly what he needed: proof of their willingness to perjure themselves. Later that night, Rachel brought in the preliminary forensic report on the emails. These were masterful forgeries, but they still left traces of manipulation. Give me a few more days and I'll build an ironclad case. Nathan nodded, already thinking about the next stage. Gregory demonstrates his strategy, attacking Nathan's credibility while portraying Catherine as a victim. It's time to show why this is a serious mistake. How about our friends at the PR firm? He asked Rachel. Rachel flashed a smile. In position, gathering intel. It seems Deborah Armstrong wasn't careful enough with the paperwork. The pieces are moving. Gregory thought he was dealing with a husband who was out of control with his anger. He's about to recognize the difference between anger and strategy, between an emotional response and a calculated retaliation. Nathan picked up the phone and dialed William's number. Schedule a board meeting for next week. It's time for them to see Oliver Reed for what he is. The game is escalating. Gregory plays with public sentiment and legal tricks at press conferences and in the courtroom. Now Nathan is going to show him what real power is. Not in a press conference, not in a courtroom, but in the process of systematically destroying everything his opponent has built. As the night wore on, Nathan stood at his office window overlooking the lights of the city. He remembered his father's words, "True power is not in how much damage you can do, but in how you use it." He is showing everyone how he will use that power. The next day's sun was just lighting up the city's skyline when a new battle had begun. Gregory's confident smile as he walked into the courtroom quickly solidified. His key evidence fell apart under the testimony of expert witnesses, while Nathan's chain of evidence was conclusive. Please describe the circumstances under which you first noticed the anomaly, Nathan's attorney asked gently. Nathan's voice was smooth and strong. I received an alert about an unusual credit card transaction. It's not just the amount that's unusual. It's the pattern of transactions that suggests this is a planned withdrawal and transfer. When I investigated, I found a series of accounts created with my personal information. And Mr. Reed's involvement? Oliver Reed appeared at our charity dinner 3 months before this started. Shortly thereafter, my wife's spending habits changed dramatically. Investigations show he had a similar pattern of approaching wealthy individuals through their spouses before. Gregory stood up ready to cross-examine, a predator's gleam in his eye. Isn't it true, Mr. Ross, that you've developed an obsession with spying on your wife's activities? Your so-called investigation was actually a harassment campaign? No, Nathan replied calmly. I record criminal activity against my account. The evidence suggests this is systematic fraud, not normal consumption. Evidence obtained through constant surveillance and invasion of privacy. Gregory's voice rose, dissenting with controversy. Nathan's lawyer interrupts. Granted. Judge Martinez warned, Mr. Thomas, take control. Gregory switches tactics and pulls out the forged emails. So how do you explain this information, Mr. Ross? Threats against my client? A warning of consequences? I didn't write those emails, Nathan states. And as our e-discovery experts will attest, they show clear signs of digital tampering. In fact, we've traced the source IP address of these emails to Mr. Reed's office in Miami. The courtroom resounded with whispers, and Gregory's face tensed, realizing that his evidence was about to completely backfire. He tries to salvage the situation with emotional appeals and dramatic accusations, but every attempt crashes into Nathan's unshakable composure. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned with a grim look on their faces. Their verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all charges: conspiracy, fraud, perjury. The evidence is irrefutable. Catherine breaks down and cries during the sentencing while Oliver watches via video link until the judge orders his immediate arrest and extradition. Gregory sat motionless, watching his reputation turn to dust. In light of the evidence presented, Judge Martinez declared, "This court orders full restitution for the stolen funds, plus punitive damages. In addition, in view of the attempted defamation of reputation and false accusations, the defense will bear all legal costs." Nathan accepted the verdict calmly, showing no joy in his victory. His victory was complete, but costly. The battle exposed weaknesses and forced him to fight on multiple fronts. Nevertheless, he prevailed, and by calculation and control proved himself an opponent who could not be betrayed without cost. Outside the courtroom, Reporters clamored for a statement, asking about the possibility of forgiveness or reconciliation. Nathan walked right past them, deaf to questions about forgiveness. There will be no mercy, no second chances. He has shown everyone what happens when you betray him. In his office at nightfall, he pondered the significance of the victory. He won the fight, but he also let something about himself change forever. What does this change really mean? It was something he needed to think about. Rain pounded against the glass windows of Nathan's office, and the neon lights of the city refracted in splashes of color from the water droplets. On his desk is a stack of invitations to speak at business schools, corporate summits, and financial forums, all of which want to hear his story of perfect revenge. "You're a symbol now," William told him after his last board meeting, "and people want to learn from you how to deal with betrayal." But what can he teach them? How do you systematically destroy a person's life? How do you turn anger into revenge while maintaining perfect control? Assistant Margaret handed him a new stack of papers. "Sir," the publisher called again about the memoirs and a letter from Howard Mills. Nathan froze. Howard Mills, his father's name. The postmark on the envelope came from the seaside town where he grew up, a place he hadn't visited in years. Inside the envelope was an old photo, the 10-year-old standing next to his father, proudly displaying the trophy from the chess championship. On the back of the photo is my mother's handwriting. "Remember what is important." Those repressed memories came flooding back. His father talking about honesty when he taught him to play chess, explaining the difference between justice and vengeance. Those principles he'd set aside in his quest for victory. "Cancel all appointments for next week," he said to Margaret. "All of them." "Sir? Board meeting. William can handle it." Nathan put the photo in the inside pocket of his suit. "I have some personal business to take care of." The seaside town remains the same. The air smells salty and fishy. Fishing boats rock gently in the harbor. The cemetery sits on a hill overlooking the sea, and time seems to stand still. "I knew you'd come." A familiar voice came from Emma Thompson, who stood watching him. The years have been kind to her, and she still has that serene wisdom on her face. According to his research, she is now a well-respected psychotherapist. "Word travels fast," he said. "Small town it is." She walked over to him. "I followed your case." "Quite a show." "Not a show." "No?" There was no reproach in her eyes, only curiosity. "The Nathan I know would fight to protect others, not destroy them. The Nathan you know is so naive." "The Nathan I knew balance." She pointed to his father's tombstone. "Just like Howard taught us both." The memories come flooding back. Afternoons in the Miles family kitchen, Howard helping them with their homework while explaining complex moral principles in simple terms. Balance, justice, the weight of choice. "They betrayed me," Nathan said softly, "trying to take everything away. And you proved they couldn't do it." Emma's voice remained gentle. "You won, Nathan. A total win. The question is, what did this victory cost you?" He studied the engraving on his father's name. Howard Miles has faced his own betrayals, suffered betrayal in business, but never lost his humanity. He teaches Nathan that true strength lies not in destroying his enemies, but in standing up for his principles despite being hurt. "I did what was necessary." Did you do what was necessary, or did you do what felt good? Emma took a step closer. "You know very well the difference between the two. Power without mercy becomes tyranny. They deserve it." "Deserving isn't the point," she said. "The point is what you become in punishing them." Her words hit the nail on the head and went deeper than any confrontation in the courtroom. That cold calculation, that satisfaction in destruction. How far had these taken him? "I'm not looking for redemption," he said firmly. "Good," Emma smiled. "Because that's not what I'm offering. I offer perspective. You've proven you can destroy life. The question is, can you still build them?" They strolled through familiar streets and through childhood memories. Emma talks about her work, how she helps trauma survivors rebuild their lives, and how she finds strength through healing rather than revenge. What her words evoke is not weakness or regret, but the realization of possibility. Later, alone in his hotel room, he revisited the case files. Each document details how he systematically destroyed Catherine and Oliver's lives. The evidence is perfect and the execution flawless. He did reach every goal he set for himself. However, the picture of his father seemed to be watching him, silently asking those questions he had been avoiding. Power without purpose is just violence. Control without direction is just bondage. He picked up the phone and dialed Rachel's number. "I need information," he said, "about organizations that support victims of fraud. The legal, do real work kind. Planning to make some charitable donations? Planning something bigger?" Nathan gazed at the picture of his father. The road ahead will not be easy. His instincts were still screaming for revenge for the betrayal, his mind still calculating how to destroy the threat. But perhaps these skills can serve different goals. Perhaps the real power lies in not destroying the enemy, but in transforming their failures into something meaningful. He'll never forgive Catherine and Oliver, never forget their betrayal, but he can choose how this story ends. Not just mere destruction, but the creation of something more powerful. That night, the sound of the waves came through the windows with a certain timeless rhythm. Nathan began to write and draw in his notebook, sketching out the beginnings of a new plan. This time, it's not about revenge, it's about building. "You know," said Emma at breakfast the next day, "this town has taught us a lot. Like sometimes the greatest power is not in how much destruction you can cause, but in how much you choose not to." Nathan looks at the fishing boats in the harbor and remembers his father's teaching. Choices define us. "So," Emma asked softly, "what choice do you have to make now?" The answer began to take shape in his mind, not a weak compromise, but an opportunity to turn strength into purpose. His notebook was already full of ideas. A new organization, an institution that could both punish fraudsters and protect victims. "I'm going to build something lasting," he said, "not just to punish betrayal, but to prevent it." Understanding flashed in Emma's eyes. That sounds more like the Nathan I know. On the way back to the city, the plan became clearer. He will use his own experiences and his knowledge of the dark side of human nature to create an organization that can make a real difference. Not giving up his power, but giving it a higher purpose. This will be his legacy, not just a story of revenge, but a story of transformation. On how to transform individual harm into collective protection, forging the flames of anger into beacons that light the way for others. In the evening, when he sat down in his office again, everything looked different. Not because anything has changed, but because the way he sees things has changed. Maybe that's the real victory. 10 years later, in the spring, the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel was filled with the best of the financial and legal worlds. A giant display scrolls through the Sentinel Foundation's accomplishments. More than 2,000 fraud cases solved, billions of dollars in stolen assets recovered, and hundreds of financial predators brought to justice. Nathan Wilson stood in the center of the room, his presence still exuding a majesty that could not be ignored. Time had left its elegant mark on him, and the silver threads at his temples added to his calm demeanor. "Another remarkable year," Rachel commented, walking over to the observation deck to stand alongside Nathan. The years had added a silver color to her hair, but her keen intuition had not diminished in the slightest. As the Foundation's chief intelligence officer, she built an intelligence network that spanned continents. The Singapore branch opens next month. Nathan checks the data on his tablet. It's the 23rd office. "And Oliver Reed is still in prison," Rachel said with a note of satisfaction in her tone. "His application for parole was denied again last week." The committee was not impressed with his reformation. Nathan didn't react to Oliver's name. The man had become a footnote, a mere symbol in the Foundation's origin story. Over the course of the decade, Oliver has tried all sorts of ploys while in prison, offering information, claiming rehabilitation, and even attempting to write his memoirs. Every attempt fizzled out in the face of determined opposition from the Foundation. "Catherine's different," Rachel continued, knowing that Nathan would want to know this information, even if he never volunteered it. "She's built a steady career since her release. Lectured on financial ethics at universities and counseled victims of fraud. Never tried to contact you." "Good." Nathan's response reveals nothing. Throughout these 10 years, he has maintained his position. No forgiveness, no contact, no exceptions. The Foundation's file for Catherine Ross is number 001, a sealed case that helped establish their work protocols. William, now retired from the board but still a sharp thinker, had a great time talking to a group of young financiers. He has helped expand the foundation's network of corporate relationships, ensuring that major financial institutions are supportive of their mission. Gregory Thomas, the notorious lawyer who died 3 years ago with a ruined career and reputation, never recovered from that scandal. Emma Wilson, once Emma Thompson, is approaching with their 8-year-old daughter Lily. This little girl has revealed the analytical mind of her father and the empathy of her mother. Their marriage 7 years ago surprised many who thought Nathan couldn't possibly believe in love again after the betrayal of his first marriage. But Emma never tries to change him, understanding that his relentless nature and uncompromising standards are an important part of his strength. The Victim Support Center in London has exceeded its target again, Emma reports. As director of the Foundation's recovery services, she's overhauled the way they help fraud victims rebuild their lives. They're implementing your new tracking system next week. Nathan nodded, professional satisfaction mixed with private pride. The Foundation combined his demand for justice with her expertise in healing to create an organization that not only punishes betrayal, but prevents fraud. Their marriage is built on similar principles: absolute honesty, clear boundaries, and shared goals. Dad, Lily tugged on his sleeve. Can we show them the new algorithm? A small smile spread across Nathan's lips. His daughter inherited his fascination with patterns, often learning to recognize anomalies in financial data in his office. The algorithm she mentions is a fraud detection system they developed together, turning father-daughter time into practical innovation. The Foundation's success has transformed the financial industry. Companies around the world have adopted their compliance standards, and regulators work with their investigative teams. The name Wilson has become synonymous with the consequences of financial crime. Harrison's granddaughter just joined our legal department, Rachel said as she navigated the crowd. The Harrison family maintains a close relationship with the Foundation and understands its importance in preventing similar scams. A presentation screen in the conference room showed a major case from the past decade, the Thompson investment fraud case, in which the Foundation uncovered a billion-dollar Ponzi scheme. The Pacific Trust scandal that led to the arrest of 60 people on 3 continents. Each victory reinforces their reputation for ruthless accountability. Ramon Day, the retired detective who helped destroy Gregory's legal assault, died 5 years ago. The Foundation's main investigative center bears his name, training a new generation of investigators to carry on his rigorous methods, and their legacy is reflected in every procedure, every detail, every decision to refuse to let deception go unpunished. The Dubai team has found another Oliver Reed impersonator. Rachel checked her phone, the 3rd this year. These people are really getting out of hand. These imitators occasionally appear as criminals attempt to replicate Oliver's original scam. But none of them worked, and the Foundation's precautions, built on analyzing that first betrayal, always found them quickly. Oliver's methods have become a cautionary tale in their training programs. At midnight, Nathan examines the Foundation's latest plans: a new artificial intelligence system for detecting patterns of fraud, enhanced rehabilitation programs to help victims, and expanded educational efforts to prevent future crimes. Each project embodies his original vision: systemic, uncompromising justice. Remember this? Emma handed him a picture from their private collection. It was his father's chess set, the one that had taught him strategy and now sat in Lily's playroom, teaching their daughter the same lessons. The Foundation's archives hold recent information on various figures from that initial conflict. Oliver's former associates, all tracked and monitored. Board members who faltered during his battles are now retired or gone. Even those hotel employees who witnessed the key confrontation have their testimonies preserved in the archives. The Moscow office has confirmed new leads. Rachel interrupted his thoughts, her intelligence network never dormant, similar to the original case where the spouse attacked family assets through charismatic outsiders. Send the details to Lily's tutorial program, Nathan decided, and she can practice pattern recognition. He developed special software to hone his daughter's analytical skills with processed case files. The Foundation's success proves that personal vengeance can evolve into lasting impact. Nathan transformed his response to betrayal into a global force for justice. His methods, once focused on destroying 2 people, now have consequences for financial predators around the world. Emma's influence is reflected in their balanced approach, with the Foundation punishing criminals as well as preventing crime. destroying conspiracies as well as building protection. This duality is reflected in their marriage, where his strength is enhanced by her insight and her compassion is solidified by his determination. Lily perfectly embodies this evolution. She understands power and consequences, but also prevention and protection. The foundation will be her legacy, and its mission will be distilled through her innovations. Nathan will never forgive betrayal, never trust blindly, and never show mercy to those who choose to deceive. But he found a way to translate those principles into a systemic force for justice. The foundation will continue his work long after Catherine and Oliver's drama has long since faded from memory. That's the real power, to create something that transcends personal vengeance and transforms individual justice into lasting impact. Nathan Wilson rises from betrayal, not weakened, but transformed. His power is still absolute, his standards still uncompromising. Only now these qualities serve a nobler purpose. It was his ultimate victory, not just over those who betrayed him, but over betrayal itself. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.